Same interdepartmental team that developed the strategy will have continued engagement and finding opportunities to share about the strategy at various events. A few upcoming events are the Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity, LEO, is hosting a Great Lakes Shipbuilding Summit in Detroit in the fall. And also the state, along with the Great Lakes, St. Lawrence governors and premiers are planning to host a Maritime Day in Lansing in April of this year as well, we're tracking a lot of other opportunities. And we're also coordinating maritime strategy implementation with other states in the Midwest in the country that are developing or have developed strategies, as well as Canadian provinces that have a strategy or a maritime plan. And from there, we'll be working together to track, report, and evaluate our progress on the action items included in the strategy. With that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, so let me just see if I have this right. So we have 33 ports in the state of Michigan. The state of Michigan doesn't own any. However, MDOT oversees 2 of them in Monroe and in Detroit. How do you oversee them?
So we actually don't provide any capital assistance to the Port of Monroe, just the Port of Detroit. So they are organized under 2 separate acts. The Port of Detroit is under the most recent Port Authority Act, whereas Monroe is under the Port District Act, which is an older act. So they've received some local assistance in operating, but the Port of Detroit is the only state that receives operating assistance from the state because of the act that they are organized under.
And we'll hear on how much that they receive from the state?
Yes, it's around $600,000.
Okay. So I have a couple questions before I move on. It's okay, so I just have an understanding a little bit better. So we have the 2026 grants that will be put into play for this budget cycle. And has the grant application been written already?
It has not. So the state and the governor's office are continuing to work through the details of that 2026 maritime funding. Those conversations are ongoing, so I am unable to discuss specifics at this time, but we look forward to returning and talking about that at a future date.
When do you think it'll be ready?
I would presume in the next month or so.
Okay, and that will be available to any of the ports within the 33 ports?
If it is structured as a competitive grant program, similarly as the 24 program, yes, all of the ports in the state of Michigan, private or public, were eligible.
Okay, do you actually or your department write the actual application, and are you the one who oversees the grants and approves the grants and awards the money? That's all you?
Yes.
Yes. You and, okay.
Yes.
And then I went and looked, this is the federal grant application, which is, I like ours better. It's only like 2 pages, so that's nice. But
We did that on purpose.
this is the state's like this 1 page, 2 pages, so that's nice. So my question is, do you apply for these federal grants, or do you have any communication with the federal government regarding the $450 million that they award for maritime?
Yeah, seeing as we don't own or operate the ports, we don't directly apply to the Port Infrastructure Development Program, but we work closely with all of the ports that do provide any technical support, letters of support. We work regularly with the Maritime Administration on their coordination with the ports and make sure we're up to date on when those programs are coming out, when they will be funded, so we can get that information to our stakeholders.
Okay, and then you awarded, the department, or MDOT, awarded 5 grants for maritime for that $5 million, and it's in your report. How many grants were applied? How many people applied for those grants? So how many were fulfilled based on how many were asked?
12 applications were received, and I believe overall it was $17 million total in funding that was requested. And we only had 5.
Okay. And then I had another question about, I'll think about it in a second. So, I know. You're on the Detroit River. Who's responsible for that seawall?
I would defer to Mark to answer
Okay,
that.
because it's like the waterways and Eagle and DNR and it'd be curious to see that it shouldn't be like, actually, the waterways across the whole state, I would think that they might be the responsibility of the state, not necessarily the ports. So,
Yeah, there's mixed responsibility when it comes to like the regulatory environmental things are Eagle. The port has to maintain those and abide by those standards, but Mark will certainly be able to dig into that deeper.
and the grants that were, all the grants that the applications were put in, did all the ports, or the 33 ports, know that that funding was available to, and are they aware that this federal funding is available as well too?
We did the best we could on making sure that was communicated. We don't have an extensive list that includes contacts with all of the ports because ownership is so varied. Sometimes the city will own, sometimes it's a private terminal. There's a lot of turnover in that staff, so we don't have an all-inclusive list. We update as best as we can, and we put out press release, we put it on our social media, et cetera. But I've received questions and inquiries from folks that were not aware of it that are still interested in that future funding.
Okay, so that's me for now. So, Rep. Slaw?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So quick question for you, a couple of little easy ones. So the carbide dock in Sault Ste. Marie, where is that? Is it upstream or downstream of like the bridge, the locks, where?
Yeah, it's maybe not even a mile from the Sioux Locks. It's right, and actually they used it as a staging area for the construction of the locks. So it's almost right next to the Sioux Locks.
Yeah, but is it upstream or downstream from the locks?
Downstream, right?
In the Lake Superior side or the Lake?
Superior side, yeah.
Okay, thank you. And then when it talks about 10 ferry operators, is that, so like I understand the ferry operator for Sugar Island and Nebish Island and a couple of those are all one owner, so that would be one owner, one of these 10 operators, or is it 10 separate individual ferries?
Yeah, so this is maintained in our Office of Passenger Transportation. I don't oversee the ferries, but I believe they're 10 separate operators.
Okay. That's it for right now.
Okay. So I just, what are the main ways that MDOT Port Office has improved and increased the traffic in the past few years?
So I think that through quite a few efforts. One is we have membership on the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Governors and Premiers, and their main goal is to double maritime trade in the next 10 years. And so we work with them on a lot of efforts to do that, of course. We advocate for the ports on receiving funding, whether local or federal or otherwise, to increase their ability to handle more traffic. I try to be helpful in as many ways as I possibly can and stay up to date on research and studies. We conduct different research on maritime in Michigan to help meet that goal of doubling maritime trade as well.
And then where do you think the funding would be best utilized to increase the maritime economy for the state of Michigan?
I would believe any future funding would be helpful to invest in the physical infrastructure itself. So we're at the ports themselves, yep.
Okay. And Rep. Morgan?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, a question I have is looking at, so the idea of doubling, I think is wonderful. It does seem like we want more and better utilization of our waterways. I am curious what the impact over the last year has been with the trade or tariff changes at the federal level. Has there been a positive or negative impact, or what has that looked like for what we've experienced here?
Sure. And I would certainly defer to Mark to talk about their personal experience with that as well. But I know one of the things that the ports are looking to do is diversify some of the cargo that they move. So if there's a particular commodity that's experiencing higher tariffs or different issues going on, it really helps their portfolio to be able to handle different types of cargo. So that's one of the reasons Monroe is looking at containerization and created project cargo for OEMs and those types of opportunities. So connecting markets that may not already exist with one another.
Have we seen has that gone up or down in the last year or two?
I couldn't speak directly to that. I would have to have the ports assess that, but I can get back to you.
Rep. Slaw?
You may not have an answer to this, but My question is, so they're talking about doubling the amount of traffic or amount of tonnage, maybe is a better phraseology, over the next 10 years. Do we have the shipping capacity to be able to do that? Is there enough boats to be able to make that happen? And if there isn't, is it even a realistic thought process that we're going to do that? Because building the shipping industry to build that many boats, to double the capacity, is of interest to me, how you're going to make that happen. And where is it coming from?
Yeah, so I think they go hand in hand. We need the infrastructure it's aging, it needs to be up to date to handle that increased capacity, but there's also, like I said, a lot of underutilized capacity. So there's a lot more we could be doing in the state of Michigan that we're not already doing, and regionally. But a lot of investment will need to occur in order to meet that goal of doubling maritime trade. And that's not just in Michigan, that's across the Great Lakes, St. Lawrence Seaway.
Rep. Edwards.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You may or may not know the answer, but I think you touched on it a couple times already. But I'm wondering, what is the number one priority MDOT has for maritime? Do you know, in regards to the ecosystem and infrastructure?
Yeah, I would say that right now our priority is the successful implementation of the maritime strategy, and my priority is being available and helpful to the ports as much as I can. So that can vary based on what their needs are, but right now it's to support and advocate for them to ensure that they have their needs met, and what role we can play in making that happen is my priority.
Just one last question, then I'm going to have Mark come on up from the Detroit Port Authority. So, do we have any control on how we diversify of what's being shipped from one spot to the other? What, like so much aggregate, so much cement, so much.
The state of Michigan, not so much, but the ports, in some ways, it's attracting those markets. It's having the ability to have the infrastructure to move that type of commodity and attracting that business. So sometimes the business will not be interested in locating unless they know the infrastructure's in place. Sometimes the infrastructure in place can't occur without the business being interested. And so it's a back and forth between the private industry and the market. And Mark can elaborate on that.
So I really appreciate you coming up here today and just giving us an overview. And I know we did this last year, but it's there's just a lot of information here to be able to digest. So thank you. And then if we could have Mark, is it Schrupp? Schrupp from Detroit Wayne County Port Authority, come on up. He's the executive director, and we really appreciate you making the time to come into Lansing to give us a overview of what you do. And we spoke on the phone last week, and you do so much, it's just hard. We're going to try to narrow it down on how we can focus it into the budget portion of what we do on this committee. So whenever you're ready.
Sure. Thank you, Chair Steele. It's my honor to be in front of this committee again. I was here less than a year ago, and I always appreciate the opportunity to come and speak with our legislators. There are a lot of questions. Some of them I may be able to answer with this. I just want to give a quick background on what I've got here, a little introduction to the Port Authority, who we are, as well as the Port of Detroit. It'll answer some of those questions about who are these ports and the private sectors. Also, some of the really tremendous strategic advantages of the Port of Detroit, which is one of those nodes that you saw on that map, but we really, we are the largest port in the state of Michigan. We used to be much larger when more manufacturing was happening here, but we still have the land, the water frontage, and the opportunity to rebuild and become a much larger throughput in terms of tonnage. So we were fairly young. We were created under a new statute that was adopted in 1978. We are a creation of the city of Detroit and Wayne County as a port authority. Our main mission really is economic development. We own a terminal, but we really don't operate it. We support private industry And the Port of Detroit really was created by Henry Ford back in the early 1900s when he needed raw materials to make cars. And so cargo drives, or manufacturing drives the cargo. And so as manufacturing declined, the port tonnages declined. But we can, part of what we do isn't just maritime, it's also economic development to bring more businesses in that might need that cargo. We apply for federal grants, so not all of the money that we go for is state money, but there's several federal programs. PIDP, Port Infrastructure Development, is one of the biggest programs, and we've regularly applied. We've been successful. We have a joint application with the city of Ecorse to upgrade a cargo dock, Nicholson General Cargo Dock. And we're implementing 2 EPA Clean Ports grants right now that I'll talk about in a second. But really, we operate through public-private partnerships. And I want to talk a little bit about our Innovation Terminal, which is a public-private partnership that we're working on. This is sort of a bird's eye view of the private terminals that are in the Port of Detroit. On the right side, that water is the Detroit River, Windsor to the south. Each of the green dots is a terminal. 40 years ago, there would have been double that number. But we have 5 cement terminals. They're all privately owned and operated. We don't run them. Ford Rouge plant is a terminal. They bring in iron ore and coal to make steel. They've made some decisions about not making steel anymore. U.S. Steel, which operated Zug Island, shut down their blast furnaces, so they're not necessarily a terminal anymore. We are the largest fuel dock in the Great Lakes. 1/3 of the fuel on the lake, these large ships, is pumped at Waterfront Petroleum, which we partner with around improving their infrastructure. We're responsible for about 6,000 jobs in Metro Detroit, almost $1 billion of economic activity. We want to drive cargo because we think it is more efficient, and we want to find new ways to move cargo. We have been working with Ford about trying to move automobiles, finished vehicles on the water, get them off the road. We proved we could do it cost effectively. It's still hard to get companies to change their mode, but we're still working on innovative ways to move other kinds of cargo as manufacturing has changed. But we have, we're the #1 hub for automotive production. So we even though we're maritime, we work with auto companies to find ways to expand their operations. And we now are seeing automotive suppliers and manufacturers get into maritime. And they want to build more efficient engines and work with maritime. And so we're looking at ways to increase manufacturing of maritime assets here in the Port of Detroit. We're close to 3 interstate highways, international crossing. We're sort of in the epicenter of the 3rd largest economy in the world, which is the Great Lakes states and provinces. So there's a lot of reasons why I'm very hopeful for increased economic activity in manufacturing, which then translates into more cargo and movement on the water. Just a quick reference to the EPA Clean Ports grant. That's all about reducing carbon emissions and really cleaning up the air in our neighborhoods near the ports. We're getting battery electric heavy-duty equipment. We'll have 2 police boats on the water that are electric by next year. And then we're studying the expansion of hydrogen fuel, which we're really excited about because the recent report showed Michigan is sitting on lots of geologic hydrogen, which if we tap that, it'll bring the cost of hydrogen way down, and it'll be a huge industry for our state. So we're studying that with the University of Michigan to power the ships with hydrogen while they're at the dock instead of their diesel-powered generators. So more on that to come. But I wanted to really get to the Detroit Wayne Mobility Innovation Terminal, which we received seed funding from the first round of the Maritime Assistance Program, and we're in the engineering and development phase. We've hired engineers to, we're repurposing a former cargo dock, 21 acres, to serve as a hub for maritime innovation around new kinds of boats. You'll see that one vessel at the bottom. That's basically a parking lot on the back of a ship that can move 240 F-150s on the water with much lower emissions, and we believe in a lot of routes cheaper than moving 30 trucks full of 8 cars at a time. So it takes care of, it reduces damage on roads and things like that. So this innovation terminal will spur a lot of that development of new technologies. You mentioned, Elisha mentioned the University of Michigan's Naval Architecture and Marine Engineering School, one of the best in the country right here in Ann Arbor. And we've been working with Professor McKinney there, who was the lead researcher on the state program. He is phenomenal. He is attracting maritime businesses to partner with U of M to test out new kinds of vessels, unmanned vessels, survey vessels, even ocean vessels that are small enough or be prototypes, test them out here in the Great Lakes before they ramp up. Our goal in partnering with the Innovation Terminal is to incubate those new businesses and then show them how to plant their roots, build their products here in Michigan and sell those to the world. One of the companies we're talking to is called Schrupp Marine. They've developed, they're right here in Michigan, a new kind of propeller. Instead of the traditional one that's been around for 1,000 years, it looks more like an egg beater, but it's more efficient. It reduces fuel by about 25%. Mr. Schrupp has doubled his size. He's looking to expand. He's got venture capital, and he's looking for property in the Port of Detroit. We've got 1,300 acres of former industrial property that can be redeveloped. We're also focused on naval shipbuilding and repair, submarine component building. I would love to see a naval shipbuilding yard on Zug Island soon, one of those big industrial sites. But we really need to focus on, our assets and our connections on the waterways and our know-how. We've got a huge engineering and manufacturing workforce. Macomb County is training new welders to build some of these ships. And so I think the investment in the manufacturing and building things here in Michigan will drive the cargo, so we'll be pushing more stuff on the water, bringing more raw materials in. And so we appreciate the support that MDOT, especially Elisha, has given us. And we're all about trying to bring more work and jobs and economic activity to Michigan. So, I appreciate your support. I appreciate your operating support. I should have said that at the beginning. We operate with 50% of our operating budget paid by the state and 25% by the city and the county. We're working to find other revenue sources. I want to get off the dole. I don't want to need state money, but we'll, as we develop these business ideas, and we'll get tonnage fees, and then we won't need state money.
So thank you. And then you had sent earlier a report that had 2 more pages, so I don't know. Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
This
just
is
wanted
so
to go over that.
So we were awarded in late 23, I guess FY24, the 1.5 million, and we are working with engineers right now. University of Michigan, we're scoping out the actual needs of the site. There is some basic infrastructure to rebuild this terminal. It won't be funded entirely through us. We're looking to private industry to invest in this. We have an MOU right now, and then the state money will leverage for federal economic development assistance grant. Through the Commerce Department, they support economic development initiatives like this. And so we're working with our economic development project person to pull the entire piece of this innovation terminal into, like, with good budgets for build out and everything. And so hopefully before September we'll have that, and we'll be able to leverage the state money that we already have. Hopefully we'll get additional funding, and we've also asked the city and the county to chip in. So a little bit of state and local money, a little bit of federal money, and then private sector money as well. And so we're hoping to put shovel in the ground by, we'll be requesting about 15 million under our federal grant, and then another 2.5 hopefully under this state assistance program.
So 4 million is your seed money, and then you're asking for 15 million from the federal government. Is that?
That's about right. Yeah, it's about a $25 million just for the basic infrastructure. This won't build the facility. We're looking to U of M on that, and other donors for the actual terminal. We have other uses on the site. With our research around hydrogen, we're looking to have a hydrogen fuel station and bunkering at the site. There's other grant money for for hydrogen investments. We've been working with the City of Detroit's hydrogen sort of research team for private companies that are looking to invest in hydrogen development, distribution, and offtake here in the state. So we're trying to do as much with private sector investments as possible.
So mostly it's infrastructure for that funding.
Yeah, the
Okay.
seawall is in pretty good shape. It'll need some help. The foundation of the dock wall of the dock itself needs to be rebuilt. Electrical upgrades, fencing. There's 2 buildings that need to be demolished, but it's about 21 acres, and it's right on the Rouge River, right across from Zug Island.
Okay,
And,
so 21 acres answers my question there
Yeah.
too. We did a tour over the summer, and it was pretty worthwhile to go see the port, go see Zug Island, go see the bridge, and from a perspective from the water. So I know that maybe this summer, if the rest of the committee, we might be able to arrange that again. It was certainly worthwhile to see it from a water perspective of what the potential is available in the state of Michigan, and especially in Detroit, that we have on our waterways. I think that there are forgotten traveling roads. They're roads. So, roads that are wet. So I just wanted to just kind of ask you the same question that I had asked Elisha was, what do you think the best support with funding that you would see overall? Is it infrastructure, like she said, or is it economic development, or is it cleaning up our roads and putting more on the water?
Yeah, I mean, I think this innovation terminal will be very impactful. So helping us get that launched will attract businesses and investment. So you'll get a huge bang for the buck. In terms of the other economic development, I'd approach U.S. Steel right now and hand them a deed to sign and ask for payment, because that property needs to be cleaned up. It's not worth what it, but let's get it operating. It's an eyesore, it's leaching, and they don't plan to use it. So let's get it cleaned up, so then when the next big project is ready, we've got a shovel-ready parcel. But I also want to emphasize that in Trenton, further down, the old McLouth Steel site is over 300, almost 400 acres. It's already ready. It's shovel ready. So we've got some places that we can attract businesses to right now, whether it's battery plants, I don't know about AI facilities.
Well,
but
you know, I'm going to rep DeSanta, I just want to make a comment that, like, what do we have, 2,300 miles of waterways in the state of Michigan, and Chicago has like 23 miles, and look what they're doing with their 23 miles versus our 2,300 miles. So we have room for improvement. Rep.
Thank you, Chair. I don't need to see Zug Island from the riverfront. I grew up on the river, so fished right off of it. But and I think that McLeod site, by the way, I think there's still quite a bit of concrete there. It's not shovel ready. They didn't take any of the concrete out. They just cleared the buildings.
That's true.
So it would take quite a bit to build something on that site. But I was especially interested in your comments about the natural hydrogen. How far away is that realistically? If it got the funding and you had let's just say for hypothetically you had people that wanted to utilize it. You're talking about utilizing it for the ships?
For ships, for heavy duty infrastructure, I mean, we're looking at it for the tractors. I mean, we have 5 cement terminals. They're using these giant 980 Caterpillar tractors. You can't put a battery on it, but a hydrogen fuel cell. So we're working on a pilot plan to convert a Caterpillar. If we can get that to close to, even with current hydrogen prices, close to market equivalent with diesel, then we can get going. I think they're looking 5 to 10 years on the geologic hydrogen. There are investors right now buying up huge swaths of Michigan property to start testing that out.
Thank you. And on the natural hydrogen, you mentioned about bunkering, meaning you're storing it there. You'd be storing it on the port site for fueling the vehicles. So bunkering because of the potential for...
Yeah, I mean, we could do it with an electrolyzer, split water, and make hydrogen. We can sell the oxygen to the wastewater treatment plant. They need that. So we're working on, and it could even be a small modular nuclear reactor. Those are safe and can be a good source for electricity to create the hydrogen now. But if geologic hydrogen is really available, then you could have a lot more at much lower cost. But that fuel barge that we're looking at would use hydrogen. We're also doing a test pilot or scoping out converting tugboats to not a full hydrogen, but a hybrid hydrogen. They don't want to completely get rid of diesel. You always want to, it's more of a hybrid, but hydrogen fuel cell with a diesel backup. And so we're looking at the numbers on that. If we can get that up and running, those tugboats use a lot of diesel fuel. If we can bring that down, that's great.
Thank you.
Rep. Morgan.
Thank you, Chair. One of the questions I was trying to understand earlier was just getting an understanding of the economic health and condition of our ports. And so trying to understand, what are the metrics that you guys use to assess like how we're doing and how are some of those numbers looking, whether that's numbers of, volume coming in or, contracts or whatever that might be. So I'm just curious, how would we understand how well we're doing and whether there's been a change over the last few years or not?
Yeah, there's an economic development impact done every 5 years on the Great Lakes, and that's where we get the tonnage information. It's very opaque. It's hard to get the data, and the Great Lakes Port Authorities hire a consultant to get at that, and they go through a lot of different angles to get it. Right now, the Port of Detroit is around 8 to 10 million tons of throughput. And that's mostly going through private terminals. Our public terminal is, less than 4% of that total. With the and so we've got the 5 cement terminals. Our general cargo dock saw a big decline. They bring in aluminum coils and steel slabs. With tariffs, that went down by about 30% this year. And so they're hurting a little bit. Hopefully we can get to a point where cross-border between us and Canada can come back, because there's benefits for both sides if we can keep that cargo moving. But again, we're looking at new kinds of cargo, new kinds of uses. The innovation terminal is really going to help spur a lot of the newer innovative uses of the waterways. And we also, there's also the recreational side. I mean, we're right on a waterfront that's way underutilized in downtown Detroit. So we're in talks to help expand that. We've got 70 cruise ships visits this summer alone, and we need a second cruise dock because we have so many. We're working to recruit a cruise company to make Detroit their home port. Hopefully that'll happen soon. It's a U.S. company, and so we think there's a huge upside on the recreational side to really bring more tourists to Detroit and take advantage of this beautiful waterway that we've got.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I was in San Antonio over the weekend, and you should see what they do with that little creek for economic development. We are totally underutilized. So one more question.
Thank you, Chair. We're hearing about a salt shortage, and I talked to the salt mine, and they said you do receive some salt at the port, right?
We export some from the port. Detroit Salt is the company, and most of their exports go out on truck or rail, but they do send some out on barges. I hadn't heard that between Detroit and Windsor, there's a lot of salt.
Everybody is supposedly ordering 30% over their normal order. I talked to Detroit Salt, and they said that some salt does come into the port by boat.
Chicago produces a lot too. Maybe they just didn't mine enough for the demand this year. I didn't order enough.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I like how we do better than Canada on how we store stuff too. So it's like we can see our competition right across the river. So we got to keep up with the Joneses over there. So with that, no further questions and no further business before the committee. I will declare this meeting adjourned.